My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence, that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. All right, this is P.O.C. I want you to see the people of the state that are over here stalking in the middle of the night. This is a male, and the entity was engaged in what is also stalking by helicopter, doing so for about 25 minutes. While the people of the state, who are confident that I don't have a phone out, engaged in pacing over here in the middle of the Civic Center as well. This is a stalker. This is a blatant, obvious stalking. With the government, there's no planes coming from the airport over here. There's nothing going on. Nothing is open over here. He is stalking a woman in the middle of the night, which is what the government is doing, stalking a woman in the middle of the night. And this is a little vagina monitor, stalking at nighttime. Where is its mother? Okay, where is its sisters while they're outside stalking? And you wonder why they're on the news, killing other people, raping them. And I'm showing you how they're gang stalking. This gargoyle is in the middle of the night stalking me with the U.S. military. Absolutely. They're going to be subject to prison. They're being deported. They're being deported as violent sex offenders, and they're doing so while they're conspiring murder. The entity was stalking me by helicopter with these same stalkers overnight. It is 12 in the morning. It's currently 12:08 a.m. This little vagina monitor is over here listening to me document him while he's sitting there staring at a communication device, and he is stalking a woman. These are the cowards that are engaged in criminal activity in California. That's all they're doing. They're a bunch of sex offenders. They're obsessed stalkers. These are demons, and these are why demons are going to be locked down with martial law. This is P.O.C. 12:08 a.m. 12:09, and this is what the entity was doing by helicopter. Okay, this entity is literally lusting, obsessing for my attention. So that's why I didn't drop what I was doing and start capturing the 75th video of the entity stalking me by helicopter. They're going to prison. I've already proven my case. The entity is obsessed with me and is stalking by helicopter and is desiring literally my attention. That's how mentally ill they are. You're not getting attention. You're getting prison time. And you're getting prison time. Population of stalkers that are in the middle of the night being weirdos. Okay, this is the P.O.C. It's 12 o'clock in the morning. This is a demon that's coming outside to stalk somebody else. This is the P.O.C. There's nothing over there. You know this demon doesn't read. That's a law school that's not open. The city hall is closed. This is a senior center. He looks like he's 14 and a half, and he's gang stalking with the government. This is the P.O.C. Like I said, 12:10 a.m. This is why the entity is being committed. They're stalking in commercial airline planes, and the commercial airline companies are being prosecuted for this. I want to be clear, the end of the airline industry, while they're sharing in criminal activity of a demented, deranged nature with those that are even under the age of majority. These companies that are maintaining commercial airline planes are engaged in terrorism in the U.S. That's the demons that are gang stalking. This is P.O.C. All right? You're going to prison while you're holding court hearings in the name of Erica Spencer concerning anything about me. You're going to prison. The entity that engaged in kidnapping, like you saw them stalking last night with the Ontario police, they're going to federal prison. Tracy Banks engaging in perjuring herself in court, gang stalking me and defaming my character, you're going to federal prison, and everybody else that was foolish enough, stupid enough to go with you. This is the P.O.C. The demons of the U.S. military, the demons that don't mind engaging in what is some illusion of retaliation. This isn't retaliation. This is mental illness. Demons that are under things like a fake sun and a fake moon because they need to be committed, and that's exactly what's going to happen. The president and everybody else in the world is aware of what is the mental instability of those that are not representative of the U.S. military. They're being put in mental institutions because they are highly unstable and they're obsessed with my vagina. That which they do rituals surrounding under the fake sun and a fake moon, stalking me all night and all day long, wasting millions of dollars on it. That's why they're getting locked up. This is the P.O.C. It is currently, by the way, where there are no flights. It's a matter of judicial notice. First of all, there is no flights scheduled right now from the airport at 12:11 a.m. Second of all, any flight coming from the airport at 2500 Airport Drive is not hovering over the Ontario City Hall at 303 East B Street. Not only that, while they are miles away from the airport, you just watch them hover over the City Hall in a senior citizen complex at 12:11 in the morning, while the fake moon is over this venue. And this is the same location where you saw the Ontario Police Department stalking me. Coming right down, stalking me, knowing exactly where I'm at. Just like these vagina monitoring teenagers know where I'm at, stalking on behalf of that agency. They're going to prison for thinking you're going to threaten me, because that's what you're doing. That's all you're doing while you're stalking in a vehicle. And it's not that I'm actually scared, because I'm not. You're going to prison because that's reasonably fearful. You are reasonably fearful where stalkers are wearing police uniforms. And they're doing it with the military. They're going to prison. That's a federal offense, an act of terrorism to engage in stalking with the military, which is what the people of the state are doing. This is P.O.C. This is the entity that's entirely psychotic. And all the psychos that are stalking in the bathrooms are being committed. They're going to prison. They're being deported. They're losing custody of their children. They're not getting any government assistance. They're being prosecuted as terrorists and violent sex offenders. All right, this is the P.O.C. It is currently 12:13 a.m. Just ongoing stalking, keeping me under surveillance. And that's exactly the purpose of the people sitting around in the dark, conspicuously and inconspicuously, and doing so while they are stalking in the path. This is surveillance by a population. These are psychopaths. These are losers. They have no purpose. All they're doing is stalking in California. All right, and that's very dangerous where you are ignorant about what actually is going on, what the actual concern is. These are stalkers that also hold public office. These are stalkers that work in the government. These are stalkers that attend elementary school. These are stalkers that are in law school. These are stalkers that are working in the grocery store. These are stalkers that live throughout the state. Okay, it is after 12 o'clock in the morning and the entity is stalking. This ongoing stalking, and this is what they were doing with amplified helicopter activity. Again, doing so with regard to wanting me to care, because they're always stalking just like this inconspicuously. Always stalking. Millions of dollars wasted on this as well. This is why Paul Leon is losing office. This is surveillance that is budgeted with regard to the city of Ontario. He is leaving office. He's being removed from office and he's being prosecuted. This is the city of Ontario with the U.S. military. And this is also the U.S. military. Don't be deceived. Trying to creep over here. That's the military as well. Okay, this is the P.O.C. The entity is keeping me under surveillance, stalking inconspicuously, but doing so for about 20 minutes while I'm just ignoring it. And the bunch of demons who are stalking me obsessively, they care. I don't care. I'm prosecuting. Okay, and the entity was engaging with amplified helicopter activity, flying in circles for over 20 minutes. And this is the evidence of that. They're still stalking. Now, the entity is engaging with a psychological torture and ongoing harassment and further into the conspiracy to murder, wanting to communicate as a stalker that you're stalking that targeted individual, and you're going to be prosecuted for that. Congratulations, you homosexuals of the U.S. military, telling the prosecutor that you're guilty of the crime, because that's the purpose of the amplified helicopter activity. This is the P.O.C. This is exactly what I was referring to, and the entity is still stalking now. It is 12:31 a.m. You're not engaged in law enforcement in Ontario. You are engaged in stalking. And they're doing so while they refer to themselves as an Ontario Police Department. They know exactly where I'm at, and they engage in what is threatening me while they are engaging in what is stalking me. And that's exactly why there's helicopter activity and plane activity over me while the city of Ontario is keeping me under surveillance with a population of demons that can read. They're a bunch of illiterate demons. They're all illiterate. Okay, and the entity's engaged in gang stalking, and the entity's engaged in what is stalking while you are feigning being a police department. You're not police department. Police departments and law enforcement does not entail stalking. It's mutually exclusive. And because the Ontario Police Department have engaged in kidnapping pursuant to stalking and engaging in like what you saw last night, you're behaving and out here representing yourself as law enforcement, that's distinct from what is surveillance, gang stalking me. You're going to prison for that. That's malicious. And that is the behavior that the entity engages in order to get away with murder and kidnapping. As though you ever have any probable cause, reasonable suspicion, legitimate basis under the law to engage in even an encounter with me. Anything other than a stalker, a co-conspirator of murder. Tracy Banks is going to prison behind this. This is P.O.C. Currently, like I stated, it's after 12 o'clock. It's 12:32 a.m. And you know who's paying for the entity that's stalking by helicopter? The American people will not be anymore. Okay, this is the entity that's stalking as a population, just riding on through, and that's all that they take. These are criminals out here. This is a criminal enterprise, and they're well under the age of majority as well. And that's the type of lawlessness that the military is fostering throughout the state of California. The government is responsible for the criminal activity. The government's responsible for it. This is P.O.C. I want to be clear. Jason Fields is literally a feces worshiper of mine who is stalking, and he's engaged in this criminal activity as one that is targeting and would claim that he was misled and misdirected. And the reality is that it does not matter what circumstances you come into what is worshiping my feces, worshiping me, monitoring my vagina, stalking me, and further into murder. The entity is engaged in this pattern of conduct. I remain subject to it, and Jason Fields will not be coming into any contact with me. Okay, this is the P.O.C. This is representative of the entity. Okay, you are not making yourself distinct from that. And I remain subject to this unlawful threat. I'm still outside. I'm still remain dispossessed. And the entity is engaging in things such as holding court hearings where Jason Fields is not representing me. He doesn't speak on my behalf. He does not, under any circumstances, reflect anything about me. And he has no authority to do so. No one does, in fact. Not even those that are going to be conducting raids and putting these homosexuals in federal prison. I am the one that represents myself. The P.O.C. is the one that represents who I am. It is currently 12:34 a.m. This is P.O.C. Alright, it is currently, as you can see, 6:32 a.m. I want you to see this. This is what I've been capturing in image after image. First of all, this is hovering. This is no takeoff that Delta Airlines in particular is committing in the engineered light. This is breaking down all the elements regarding a federal prosecution of the entity acting via Delta Airlines right now at the Ontario Civic Center. This is engineered light. The gate is flat on the ground, extending forward. This is again under the guise of what is the sun at, like you stated, 6:33 a.m. Or 12 hours from now, after 6 p.m., this same building is where the sun is located. This is relevant to what is the presence and the significance, the legality or illegality of presence in that supernatural environment where Delta Airlines maintains also no flights that would ever occur over in this environment, let alone would occur, at the rate at which that I'm documenting it. And this is what the military has been engaged in. And I just want to show how the entity is doing. So it's currently 6:33 a.m. There are no flights scheduled that are published by the airport. And this is relevant to the entity that's engaging in any type of presence. There's no such thing as being on the right side of the law, reporting to work, where you're gang stalking, which is how the military is stalking. Okay, the entity is doing so maliciously, and there is no such natural environment where the sun is present at one address, like where the people of state work, under the fake sun that is here also setting. This is the entity that's engaged in stalking with Delta Airlines that maintains no flights from either terminal at the Ontario International Airport. That is going to hover over the senior citizen complex over the Ontario City Hall, like I've been documenting. This is the entity 3 minutes earlier. This is the entity engaged in what is psychopathic behavior, and the airlines are being federally prosecuted. Okay, I just want to be clear. This is a basis of federal prison. This is a serial stalker engaging in the pattern of conduct with the city of Ontario, and is doing so right now in the same exact manner like they do in the library, like they do while they're stalking in the bathroom. And this is an entity that is, again, under the fake sun engaged in this. This is, again, another flight, Delta Airlines and Southwest Airlines. This is 2 minutes. And this is the entity that's doing so. It's also relevant that the Ontario International Airport has published no such flights. And there are no flights that are going to hover miles away from the airport, as I'm showing you in real time, like what Delta Airlines and Southwest Airlines are engaging in and have been engaging in. Southwest Airlines is scheduled for an 8 a.m. flight. That is flight number WN4527 that's going to Honolulu out of gate 403. You have Delta Airlines that's headed flight number DL761 going to Atlanta from gate 209, but there are neither of these airlines that are present over the Civic Center right now, where I'm at the Ovid Femin Community Library, where the entity is stalking by virtue of presence every employee, every resident, whether you live at the venue where the entity and you are gang stalking, whether you are working at the venue and you are thereby gang stalking, or whether you are merely an enthusiastic sex offender that doesn't have anything to live for equally. Okay, whether they live there or work there, they don't have anything to work for, to live for, they're monitoring. And this is someone that doesn't even have anywhere to live and is stalking with the military and is serially doing so. He's subject to prison as well. He is under the fake sun that is here 12 hours from now. And this is evidence regarding what are judicially known as facts. Not only are the terminals nowhere over here, meaning no airline is hovering over the Civic Center, they are also doing so pursuant to a pattern of conduct where the entity is stalking outside of what's even published on the Ontario International website. And even if Delta Airlines, a criminal that is conspiring my murder, who is being civilly and criminally prosecuted, Delta Airlines maintains no position whereby a flight that is taking off from the Ontario International Airport is going to hover over miles away where I am located, where Delta Airlines and Southwest Airlines are stalking me. And they are stalking in concert with the U.S. military in the specific environment. And this is what I've been documenting. 6:30 a.m., 6:19 a.m. These are the watermarks down here at the bottom. But we will go ahead and look at the official timestamp so you can see. 6:17 a.m. This is referred to as psychopathic pacing. All right. The entity is doing more than just stalking. The entity is engaged in what is monitoring. Monitoring is mentally ill behavior. And the entity that is mentally ill engages in monitoring another person and seeks to falsely depict the character of that person that they're monitoring. This is an entity, a government system, a population of those who are mentally ill. In fact, they are monitoring as a population, which is proven through the environment that is conducive for surveillance, such as having a fake sun rising and at the same address, a fake sun setting. Okay. And even though I've shown it exceeds being at the Oak Family Community Library, this is the highlight. Okay. Underscoring the ridiculousness of the environment where multi-million-dollar companies such as Delta Airlines, Southwest Airlines, United Airlines, UPS, all of whom I'm documenting gang stalking me this morning, under the fake sun, miles away from the airport, having nothing even to do with claiming that you were departing from the airport with the published time headed to X, Y, and Z destination with how many passengers aboard. None of this is the cost. And this is a matter of what is judicial notice. These airlines are being federally, they are already convicted. Okay, this is the court. They've been prosecuted already. The military, the people of the state, the entity is being diagnosed with the very evidence that is used to convict them. The entity is engaging in not only that which is psychopathic with regard to the repeatedly crossing path conduct, which is significant in the light. Okay, the entity is doing so in the environment where you're seeing that it's a cartoon, it's an illusion. And then the psychopaths can persist as though you are going to, number one, ignore it. Number two, that they're going to be impervious to enforcement of your rights. Number three, that you forgot or something, or you're delusional like them as they project their mental illness, and they persist as though nothing is going to happen. This is the entity that's being diagnosed. Martial law is what is required regarding a mentally ill entity. The entity that is gang stalking is speaking to the fact that this has never been the military. Okay, this has been the abuse of such titles in order to commit what is terrorism, and the government's being held accountable for that, and so are the people of the state, including Delta Airlines, Southwest Airlines, American Airlines, Amazon Prime Air, FedEx, UPS, United Airlines, all the commercial airlines that are gang stalking me as I'm showing this morning at this same address, at the point at which I wake up, and the entity is literally starting its day with stalking me. Okay, 6:13 a.m. in position while the entity is rising a fake sun. And this is also where the entity is setting a fake sun. This is 6:12 a.m., 6:07 a.m., 6:03 a.m. Securitas is engaged in the pattern of conduct they're stalking. 5:55 a.m. 5:51 a.m. 5:42 a.m. 5:39 a.m. This is an entity that's doing so all night long, like I'm documenting last night, where the entity is stalking me by helicopter. Just ongoing stalking, keeping me under surveillance. Which is what I documented last night. Well, early this morning. And that's exactly the purpose of the people. This is the same system. And this is the population of demons that are going to be subject to martial law. They will not have, these two demons are the ones that represent the criminal conduct that's occurring while they're on foot. Speaking to the threat, the terrorists that they are, they will not be on the roads and the highways. They will not be in the sky space. Martial law is going to permanently land the people of the state where they remain, and not capable of threatening any other region of people, if you will. California, and every politician, every celebrity, every so-called doctor, medical professional, legal professional, those that are even in the school districts. I've shown every facet of this gang stalking society engaged in the pattern of conduct, and there shall be no exception to martial law. All right. And the U.S. military has gone to the extent to prove that to you. You are going to federal prison where you are engaging in terrorism, which is what it is by definition under federal law. When you are stalking with the military that have taken an oath to protect American citizens, not stalk, which is to terrorize them. And you are engaging in terrorism. The entity is doing so with the population that has not been through any training to be in the military, but it is training enough as they are demons. They are on the same page. And as you can also see, there is no amount of training that's going to make a demon superior or impervious to the sight of an American citizen, a civilian, in order to prosecute the intellectually impotent, the inferior, the lower beings who are terrorizing in California. That is the United States of America. And it is an act of war. And where you are stalking with the military, like the demons who are in California, you are going to be federally prosecuted. And how do you prosecute a population? You place them under martial law. You hate this country so much, you levy war against this country, the country is going to respond as a domestic terrorist. This is what the U.S. military have committed. And this is proven in what is within the walls of a military tribunal as well. The demons are being stripped of the position that they've abused in order to engage in what is terrorizing an American citizen. And they do so under the guise of company names. They do so under the guise of a population. They do so under the guise of enforcing, exercising, enjoying the benefits of being private citizens. And they're none of that. Under the fake sun, there is no privacy and there is no private citizen. There is no private speech. It's the entity. The U.S. military is acting through the people of the state, and it is shown to be a highly unpersuasive and unintelligent mask. And that mask is being ripped off. And not only that, it is an act of terrorism while you are targeting with the terrorists who are the military, the government, period. And you are going to be treated like any other enemy that is outside of the borders of the U.S. territory. This is P.O.C. This is the evidence that is serving to prosecute as a matter of what are judicially known as facts as well. What the entity has been doing and what the entity is doing while it's being documented. And this is what an entity is doing as I travel. It's also psychopathic that they stalk me and follow me to, for example, the Ontario Village Shopping Center, where all they're doing is the same thing under the fake sun. The whole crime scene follows, and the criminals themselves, the stalkers, they follow. What are they doing in the grocery store? Pacing in the engineer light, while the entity is monitoring my vagina in the bathroom, and while they are stalking, and they make purchases while they're stalking. That's a RICO case. The entity is engaging in stalking as I go to Upland. What are they doing in the library? Pacing all day long under the fake sun, remaining over me, doing so on the roads and the highways as well, stalking. The whole crime scene follows, and all the entity, the criminal, follow me to that place. This is an entity that's engaging in levying war, and it is aid to our enemies, as the United States itself defines itself, proves itself to be an enemy to the American people. And this is that which has not been specifically contemplated by the United States Constitution, but it is proven with evidence, and there shall be a federal response. It starts with this. And martial law is absolutely necessary. This is P.O.C. It is currently 6:44 a.m. All right, this is the criminal activity of Paul Leon and the Ontario City Council. Public corruption that's serving what is the conspiracy to commit murder. Hexagon roofings engaged in surveillance. The people of the state are now walking across the parking lot. They're monitoring while the fake sun is over them. The entities surrounding with light activity is what this is. This is demonic, mentally ill behavior, and it is public corruption. Maintaining a means of audible activity. And Sectron is engaging in the pattern of conduct. They're doing the same thing with the Ontario Police Department. They have a history of engaging in the P.O.C. with the U.S. military. And they're doing so. The fake sun that is still here, by the way, in the middle of the afternoon, long after the demon that's carrying a weapon, who's subject to prison for gang stalking with the city. Okay? This is what Loomis engages in. This is what the pattern of conduct that Brinks Security engages in furtherance of murder with the entity. Whether you're a security guard bearing a weapon, whether you call yourself a police officer bearing a weapon, you're going to federal prison. License 91229 George 3. They're monitoring with the City Hall, and that's impossible light activity. Those are demons that have no business with a weapon, in other words, engaging in public corruption while they do so with the government. Sectron Security Inc. is a terrorist, and they're being federally prosecuted while they're conspiring murder with the military, stalking. It's the exact same P.O.C. And this is psychopathic pacing. Demons come behind them to engage in the pacing. This is what they were doing by planes, which I showed in the screen recording video. Hexagon Roofing was walking, and they walk into the City Hall where they are in the pattern of conduct, and so is the City Hall employees. These are a whole bunch of demons. The Ontario City Hall is full of demons. This is why the other night when I'm walking here and the entity flies over my head at this city hall. I'll attach that video to remind you about it. This is public corruption, which is the basis of removing any city hall and prosecuting those that occupy it. That is Paul Leon, who's been engaged in what is profiting from kidnapping me, gang stalking me, in concert with the military that's flying over the very venue where the city hall, the Ontario City Council, is located. This is P.O.C. It is, like I stated, 7:35 a.m. The entity is keeping the fake sun while demons fill up a government venue, which is a threat to national security. Demons that are engaging in what is a criminal pattern of conduct, which is exposing what is a matter of public corruption in furtherance of murdering an American citizen. And any American citizen is being targeted by the government, such as what Paul Leon and the Ontario City Council exhibit. They facilitate and enable and share in that criminal activity with the Ontario Police Department, with the Ontario Fire Department, with American Medical Response, with the people of the state, 8 Zebra Jerry Nancy 449 included, with the City of Ontario employees who are paid sex offenders, stalkers. And this is what is exactly coming to an end. This is the public removal for criminal purposes of the gang stalking mayor. He's not the only one in California. P.O.C. This is the military, and this is the criminal activity and the mental illness of the local government. They're typically doing the U-turns when I'm at the opposite side of the senior center. This is the senior center where UPS and Southwest Airlines and United Airlines were flying right over here. The reason why they're over there is because the demons, the mentally ill of the military that are stalking with the mentally ill, who are the people of the state, who are at the government venue, a facilitating venue. Okay, not a legitimate government. They're exposed as domestic terrorists. And they're exposed as such under the fake sun that is shining on me at 7:44 a.m. And you're walking in that stalking. And this is the government that is stalking. And I'm showing you stalking that's even occurring at their venues. And there are a bunch of vagina monitors that are pacing equally psychotic and sexually perverted in the bathroom, where the psychopaths are engaging in cartwheels over the city hall. This is the ongoing show regarding the absurd, deranged entity that is engaging in the P.O.C., which is no respecter of persons. Okay? This is the entity that's gang stalking with the government. And this is who is being removed from position, Paul Leon. All right, this is the Ontario City Hall. That's a crime scene. And this is the entity that is engaged in gang stalking. Old biddies under the fake sun, demons. Construction workers under the fake sun, demons. Leaf blower under the fake sun, demons. License 9 Apple Mary Uncle 364 is engaged in criminal activity. And they're doing so, they're maintaining surveillance in the bathroom inside of this venue. Remember when I'm here on what is March 3rd, 2026, as I went out of my way to show you the fake sun, while the Ontario City Hall were gang stalking me, while they've also engaged in what is defaming my character in that written document, which is an admission that I'm going to have Sean Thrasher put in prison for. He's not the only one of the Ovid Family Community Library. The Ontario Police, Gerber, is going to federal prison. And the entity that's employed, that's Mickey, that's Myra, Alexander, Alex, Alan, all the demons engaging in kidnapping with the Ontario Police, they're all going to federal prison. This is P.O.C. The Ovid Family Community Library is right here where the fake sun is setting. And this is the fake sun over me at the City Hall, speaking to the criminals that are inside of a government building, which is a facilitating venue where the military is doing the same ongoing cartwheels. Okay, and then at this same elevation, they are much more west, stalking me at the Ontario Village Shopping Center. They even go to UPLAND, California, where Paul Leon is also engaging in the pattern of conduct of targeting as the City of Ontario. This is P.O.C. Criminal expenditures on the ongoing budget that is provided for the City of Ontario to engage in surveillance, providing the instrumentalities for it. Paul Leon is a terrorist leader, as his conduct as the facilitation of the City of Ontario as a leader in the city, providing for it, facilitating it, is defining him, and he's going to be prosecuted for it. P.O.C. Ontario Police, vehicle 119-1697636. This is stalking. They're going to prison. They're stalking with the people of the state that are engaged in surveillance. This is another stalker from the Ovid Family Community Library that also committed kidnapping with that agency. The entity, you'll recall my evidence of me being at Bethel Congregation and the Ontario Police, 2 vehicles, demons that are stalking me. And the evidence of it is science that's going to serve to put that department in prison. They were stalking me stalking me a couple nights ago, including Gerber at the Ovid Family Community Library, where I'm documenting surveillance now. They're stalking in the middle of the night with the entity that's stalking me by helicopter. And it is also evident in the specific environment where after 1 o'clock in the afternoon, on this same street, the Ontario police are engaged in terrorism, because that's what it is when the police are stalking you, and they're stalking you in a malicious manner that the average person is not readily able to identify, nor is the federal government poised while it is engaging in that malicious system to provide you justice. That's the formula for defamation, which is also why that demon in vehicle 1119 is going to prison. So are the employees of Ovid Family Community Library. The people of the state are losing their licensure, stalking on the roads and the highways. 9 Mary Thomas David 395. This is psychopathic. They're pacing. 7 Frank Robert Jerry 042. And they're stalking with the Ontario Police Department. That's a demon that's engaging in what is conspicuously stalking me. And every single last one of them that do that are going to prison. That are wearing those police uniforms, engaging in what is stalking me, where they know that I'm sleeping as they keep my vagina under surveillance all day long. And I get the evidence that they hand over to me under the fake sun that is here. It is currently what's the current time right now? The current time is 8:33 a.m., 9, 10, 11, 12, 5 hours from now. The fake sun is still over me on this same street while the Ontario police are right here stalking in the path, which is evidence that I've captured. And that is relevant evidence that I will go ahead and I have more than that. But this is giving an example. That demon's going to prison. This is P.O.C. This is the entity that does so while they're hostile. While they listen to me capture video and I laugh about how idiotic the homosexuals of the military are, how incompetent they are. All right, how they have proven for me that the people of the state are terrorists as a matter of evidence to prosecute them. All right, under laws that already exist and laws that shall come into existence, as I laugh at that. Demons that are hostile and psychopathic engage in that very conduct, and they're going to prison for it. This is P.O.C. Remember, the entities doing cartwheels over the City Hall parking lot? They're not. They're on the opposite side of the library now, because this is where the fake sun is, where Southwest Airlines is now flying on the opposite side of the library. That demon in the Ontario police vehicle is going to prison. The employee, 8 Uncle Apple David 514, employee of the Ovid Family Community Library, they're going to prison. P.O.C. Over Sarah's Regis Group, I just took pictures of the stalkers inside of the parking garage. This same parking garage where the fake sun is over me, like I'm capturing in the middle of the afternoon. They're going to be federally prosecuted. Sarah's Regis is a corporate entity engaging in the P.O.C. That's why the entity is targeting by stalking in a plane and flying over an apartment complex, which is incriminating specific environment. That is literally the evidence that you are gang stalking, while the government is doing so by flying over where you live, where you work, as you travel. This is how this system operates. It is literally guilt by association. You just have to know what it is that you're associating. You have to be able to see what you're looking at. And they are doing it in plain view. This is the pattern of conduct. It's currently 8:35 a.m. Ontario police are going to prison. Stalking on the roads and highways just like the people of the state. When you have police on the side of that vehicle, you're going to prison. This is P.O.C. LORENZ is going to federal prison for a pattern of conduct by that agency. It is 8:35 a.m. The entity has a fake sun over me, by the way. Another video to refer to. While I'm in Fontana, California, the Ontario police are proven as stalkers, sex offenders, terrorists, because the sun is not going to be over me at Spring and Sierra while I'm facing the Fontana Lewis Library in Fontana, California, whereas I've been here, and this is the same building where the fake sun was rising this morning, and it is still over me in the city of Ontario while I'm remaining on the same block. But yet, as I get aboard Omnitrans, that's gang stalking on the roads and the highways, engaging in terrorism, keeping a fake sun through the window of those buses, which is a facilitating venue as I travel even into another city. That's how it's over me at 8:35 a.m. during daylight savings time. That's the prosecution of terrorists who are surrounded by that evidence. Okay, this is the P.O.C. The Ontario Police Department are being disbanded, and those stalkers are going to prison. You're going to federal prison when you are engaging in stalking with the military, which is what Southwest Airlines just provided against the Ontario Police and the people of the state. You're going to federal prison where you wear police uniforms, where you exemplify, demonstrate, represent yourself as having authority, being engaged in law enforcement. That is being a police officer, as though you're engaged in the execution of duties of officers, which is not something that's going to be based on your claiming. It's something that's going to be proven through the substance of the pattern of conduct, what you are actually engaging in, what is the impact of the affect of what it is that you're doing, because the government cannot be trusted. It's a lying stalker. The entity is going to be federally prosecuted. This is all evidence putting that demon in vehicle 119 in prison. This is P.O.C. I just want you to see the extreme of the entity that's levying war. That's the military. This is the military's co-defendants. That's an Asian male, license 9AUU777, 6YTK525 is stalking me and honking, which is audible activity under the fake sun. Remember, this is the fake church. The entity stops in the middle of the street to go in this gang stalking with 936 North Euclid Avenue under the fake sun. This is what was happening at the City Hall, where they went and emptied the garbage twice at the same location, monitoring while the military, you see that? Recognizing stalking. You know who's stalking? The people of the state that live here. Government is engaged in the P.O.C. with the U.S. military. Do you know what this is? This is prison. This is federal prison, and it's also a diagnosis for mental illness, and it's exposing public corruption. California exempt 1728466, and they're in the middle of the street. This is not how you empty the garbage either. This is not how you do that. This is the P.O.C. This is how obsessed with me Paul Leon is, the city of Ontario is, and these demons are being committed. The enterprise itself, the criminal enterprise that is the city of Ontario, is being defunded. And the mentally ill have no business operating vehicles and being on the roads and the highways while they're stalking. This is P.O.C. This is speaking to the obsession. Paul Leon is hostile. So he sends the trash the demons that can't even competently empty the trash to engage in stalking me, which is proven by science. It's 9:16 a.m. This is the entity that's engaging what is stalking by the commercial planes. I'm going to prosecute the airline industry. The entity that's gang stalking through the employees of the city, I'm going to prosecute the municipality. The entity that's gang stalking, I'm going to prosecute the population on the roads and the highways. The entity that's gang stalking where they live, I'm going to prosecute the population that's residing in this specific environment. And this is where the same militaries were stalking me after 5 p.m. at what is the Methodist Church. And the entity was flying over my head by helicopter. That's where you're not emptying the garbage. You're looking at demons manifesting. And they stopped in the middle of the street to run out in front of me under the fake sun because that's how important I am. All right? And these are vagina monitors that smell like garbage. And this is psychopathic pacing. This is P.O.C. Paul Leon is being removed for the absurd, for the mentally deranged, for the sexually perverted pattern of conduct that he and the city of Ontario is engaging in. And the mentally ill are being locked down by martial law. And this is exactly why they need it. P.O.C. The people of the state are gang stalking, license plate 5NQB264. The entity is gang stalking everybody in the neighborhood. They're all monitoring. License plate 7 David Bob Edward 279. This is the pattern of conduct. You see how the fake sun is moving around me? They're all monitoring. They're all gang stalking. 936 North Euclid Avenue. This is P.O.C. This is the entity that's engaged in that, and you're paying attention to the danger. They don't have car accidents in California under the fake sun. This is speaking to the fraudulent insurance industry, where they make money, they profit while they sacrifice each other. They sacrifice targeted individuals, which is what I represent, while they engage in stalking, surveillance on the roads and the highways. They know exactly who's on the road. They know what you're doing in your car. They know the state of your genitalia in that vehicle, where they are stalking on the roads and the highways like the people of the state are. This is psychopathic pacing, and this is an entity that's engaging in that conduct, and they're doing so in a highly unsafe manner because they wanted to engage. This is how pathetic they are. It's about stalking me while I'm walking down the street. The fake sun is here after 6 p.m. That's how I'm capturing the P.O.C. after 5. Stalking by helicopter, speaking to obsession with me, a priority of a bunch of demons that have sacrificed themselves. All right, you're defunding when you're spending all the resources on planes and helicopters and the employees that are collecting a paycheck while they're stalkers. All of this is being defunded. There will be no jobs. If you're talking about martial law, you're defunding all of this. This is P.O.C. I'm at Plaza Serena and Euclid, and this is Paul Leon's public humiliating removal from office. He's a demon. He's also a fake pastor. P.O.C. All right, this is 7-Eleven that is stalking at 204 North Euclid Avenue, doing so with the military that does so as I capture the fake sun. 7-Eleven that's threatening my life. While the entity is documented, the entity engaged in those tactics of psychological torture and threatening. So the corporate entity itself, this is how you're analyzing the entity's pattern of conduct, and they're going to be prosecuted. That's impossible audible activity. The train is not that loud. It's not even flowing by. The entity's gang stalking with helicopter and furtherance of murder to threaten, and all of these third parties are threatening together. This is federal prison for everybody here. And that is not even Metrolink. It's Union Pacific. P.O.C. This is federal prison. The employees of they're monitoring while they're maintaining purchases. This is P.O.C. P.O.C. They're all stalking together with the entity that's stalking by helicopter. That's why they're here. They're not all ignorant. This is the pattern of conduct of a bunch of demons who are psychopaths and targeting with the U.S. military. That's why the helicopter activity and the fake sun are here. This is the unpersuasive and highly unintelligent system as you document it, and they're subject to prison when they're stalking with the U.S. military and furtherance of murder. And 7-Eleven and Gulf are being federally prosecuted. That's the corporate entity. This is P.O.C. The entity is psychopathic, and so they engage in threatening and stalking in that manner, including Upland police that are going to be disbanded. That's a threat. I documented this morning Ontario police who are going to prison, stalking on the roads and the highways. All right, that's what that is under the fake sun, which I took a picture of this morning on this same street, which is the P.O.C. The entity that is stalking with the U.S. military. That's not coincidentally, but pursuant to a pattern of conduct of surveillance on my device, surveillance of me, while Union Pacific is using the Metrolink train line, while all these demons are stalking on the roads and the highways. And this is how a government is stalking you from place to place. This is speaking to everybody that's going inside of the Upland Public Library. It includes Alan, Adam Tuckerman, Joy, Brianna, Carissa, Laura, Elizabeth, all the demons that are gang stalking by place of employment. They're all going to federal prison. They're engaged in systematic monitoring while the entity is maintaining the specific environment, stalking me under a fake sun, which is also here in the morning. This is my shadow. They're all stalking as a business. They're stalking as a population, and they engage in what is making purchases while the entity is under the false impression that they have a defense under the federal law for making a purchase where it's an admission to criminal presence in the path pursuant to gang stalking. And they're all subject to federal prison. I just want to be clear on that. And this is the prosecution. Strict liability basis. I'm prosecuting 7-Eleven. I'm prosecuting Gulf. I'm prosecuting the entity that's stalking. They're losing their licensure. They're gang stalking on the roads and the highways. Union Pacific. You're talking about the entity that is gang stalking with the helicopter. Union Pacific doesn't even use the Metrolink train line. They're engaging in facilitation, massive stalking and targeting. The entities engaging in this. The employees of 7-Eleven are going to prison. Upland police that are crossing paths, gang stalking me, they're going to be subject to what is disbanding. And the entity is subject to the criminal pattern of conduct while I am, the entity is engaging in the criminal pattern of conduct while this fake sun remains over me, and it was sitting over the Upland Public Library all day long. It is currently 7:02 p.m. There is no natural environment where this coexists. This is how you know that this is a stalker, a psychopath, a vagina monitor, 7 David Sam 029, and that is federal prison. I just want to be clear on that. That is federal prison, as the target individual maintained evidence of who is stalking them in the shoes of the government that is doing so in furtherance of a criminal conspiracy to commit murder and kidnapping, which is the purpose of them stalking you and monitoring you every second of the day, everywhere that you're going. And while you do so with the government, you're going to prison when they're doing so as gang stalking police. You're going to prison when they're doing so gang stalking you by helicopter. That's how the government is able to accomplish it with them. And while they want to do that with the military and with the government, they're going to prison for it. That's P.O.C. This is the entity that's engaged in that in Upland, California. This is the pattern of conduct, 7:02 p.m. The fake sun is over me in the morning at this same exact 7-Eleven, also aboard Omnitrans. This is already surrounded with evidence. Remember, the entity that's gang stalking me on this very street is the Upland police at the Chevron at 159 South Euclid. That's right here on the opposite side of the street. Doing so during the 10 a.m. hour. They're all going to prison. I documented them. While they're gang stalking, while at the 7-Eleven, and they're presenting evidence against themselves, and this is the entity that's committing poison. They're going to federal prison. Okay, selling me poisonous food products, tampering with the food while you're gang stalking, you're going to prison. This is the P.O.C. and this is a massive federal RICO case. So businesses like this no longer exist. They're going to compensate me, and damages are also coming from the people of the state. 7 Mary George Paul 323 is compensating the target individual that they're gang stalking, and they're also subject to federal prison while doing so. And you don't have to say anything you could sit there like a psychopath and ignore me if you want. They're stalking. You don't have to say anything while the entity provides evidence against her, and all of them stalking in a helicopter. While Union Pacific, remember that, is using the Metrolink train line. This is the P.O.C. Stalking in the path. License plate. These are the demons that go in bathrooms stalking. License 8 Sam Charlie Nancy 226. The city of Upland kept a fake sun over me today. They're acting in furtherance of murder as a corrupt entity. They will be subject to martial law. This is P.O.C. It is currently 7:14 p.m. So the video you just listened to is the evidence of the entity, the entire city that is engaged in stalking me as the government acts with the people. 9WLU265 is the people of the state that is stalking at Olive and Euclid Avenue under the fake sun, which I just took a picture of at 7:14 p.m. So that fake sun that is on video at the intersection of 9th Street and Euclid is moving steadily at my speed, the speed that I'm going in the opposite direction of the rest of the people of the state, along the same street where it is doing the same thing, going toward the Upland Public Library in the morning, where the entity is engaged in what is stalking in that environment, doing so with helicopter, which is what you see on video. So at 7:14, which is the time now, the entity is stalking, and the fake sun is over me at Olive and Euclid Avenue, where the entity is stalking with the city of Ontario, stalking me with the Paul Leon the Ontario International Airport, the City of Ontario, in other words, that are targeting me in the City of Upland, and the City of Upland is targeting with the City of Ontario. These are two cities that are stalking me, which is terrorism. This is the gang stalking, and the entity is doing so on the roads and the highways, doing so in the sky space via aerial surveillance, doing so as demonstrated through the specific environment where the entity that is in fact mentally ill is stalking under a fake sun. That's remaining over me while they are all proven also with that evidence to be stalking. And while also the entity is stalking with commercial planes, there's not even an airport. There are no commercial planes that are going to be in the city of Upland either, which I've documented also in the specific environment where the entity has the fake sun over me in Upland on Euclid Avenue. There is no sun that's going to, contrary to what I documented yesterday, be remaining as I documented Sunday, going to be remaining at the Ontario Ovid Family Community Library, like I'm showing you where it's setting at the same 215 EC Street Ovid Family Community Library, where all those employees of that library are going to federal prison. Where the entity is stalking me by helicopter last night, as I capture on video. The entity is in Upland, California, under the fake sun, stalking me in particular, where the fake sun is located in alignment to me, and where everyone else that is in relevant position to me, they are not sharing that ongoing evidence of being targeted, because as they drive away, the fake sun doesn't move with them. It's moving as I move. As I stay there and they drive away, the fake sun remains stationary. As I walk away and they drive in the opposite direction, there are not two suns that are moving in both directions at the same time. It is not the shared experience. The entity is engaged in what is stalking me on an ongoing basis by helicopter. That is the hallmark where I just documented an entire business stalking me. And the entity is doing so as I'm at Olive in Euclid Avenue at 7:14 p.m. under the fake sun. The entity is stalking with commercial airline companies. Those are the airline industry that is being federally prosecuted for terrorism and a criminal conspiracy to commit murder. The airline industry is being federally prosecuted for psychological torture, which is an unprecedented basis for recovering damages. And this is what the entity is doing with the City of Upland. Okay, this is P.O.C. The City of Upland is stalking me in furtherance of the conspiracy to commit murder, and I'm going to prosecute the City of Upland for terrorism. And the prosecution of the City of Upland, the prosecution, the proof, and the prosecution of the City of Ontario is the prosecution of the State of California. This is P.O.C. It's currently 7:17 p.m. License 9, Robert David Yolanda 857. License 9, Frank Edward Jerry 555. Stalking at 7th Street and Euclid Avenue, where I have the fake sun over me in the morning. Where diversified landscape is stalking at that freeway entrance of the 10. This is where the fake, which I'll go ahead and capture that right now, where they are stalking on the roads and the highways, which is a threat to American citizens. License plate 17944 Frank 1 is the name of that demon that's stalking with the sound of their vehicle. Everything that you hear and see is deliberate regarding monitoring you. And the mentally ill are monitoring. This is the population of the mentally ill that are stalking. P.O.C. License plate 6694 Jerry 4, 6694 Jerry 4, George 4. That's a white van, a male operating that, and he's holding his phone up toward me while he's turning the corner. He's stalking and he's monitoring, particularly with his communication device. He's doing so within a commercial van. It is currently, like I stated, 7:18 p.m. Documenting merely anyone. I can document a lost license plate on the sidewalk. It's a matter of evidence where I'm at because the entire state's being prosecuted for terrorism. This is P.O.C. It is currently 7:18 p.m. This is the entity that's engaging in the same stalking conduct as they are at the Ontario Town Square, flying in alignment to me and making a U-turn where there's no commercial planes. They're doing so in concert with the people who are coming around stalking under the fake sun. In furtherance of murder. License 8, Thomas Mary Paul 186 is a stalker. So is 9, Henry Mary Uncle 165. So is license plate 8, Yolanda Edward Uncle 987. 9, Bob Larry Thomas 057. And so is the entire airline industry that's engaged in the same conduct way down in Ontario at the Ovid Family Community Library, where the City of Upland is stalking with the City of Ontario, and they're doing so on the roads and the highways. Okay, let me zoom out so you can see that. This is under the fake sun. Okay, this is where Upland police are stalking. I took pictures right here at 7th Street. They're engaged in criminal summoning while they use police lights and pull over these demons that are stalking with them. It's psychopathic what the entity is doing when they are committing criminal summoning, which is the evidence to have them diagnosed. While they show themselves as demons, demons is synonymous with mentally ill, particularly antisocial psychopathic disorders, while you are stalking and trying to conceal the fact that you're a stalker by being a police department, forming a police department for the criminal purposes of the state. All right? This is the entity that's gang stalking, and you're also a psychopath while you're stalking in commercial planes.
What airport are they coming from? They're flying diagonally also. So they are flying northwest much farther than the Ovid Family Community Library. And that's a matter of what is judicially noted as facts. This is also the fake sun. This is unprecedented where you have a population that is stalking you. And this is speaking to public corruption. Bill Velto is the one that is in position of authority. You are not remaining in office when you have this evidence against any city. He's being federally prosecuted. He's being removed from office. This is P.O.C. It is currently 7:20 p.m. Alrighty, you will see seconds later the entity that's engaged in the mentally ill conduct of psychopathic pacing, like I documented this morning. The essentially a plane every 90 seconds, which is exceeding mere stalking. It's also exceeding stalking when you have a population of people that are all stalking together. These are demons that are not human beings, and this is exposing how the living dead are keeping, in America and the United States, keeping American citizens under surveillance. So the entity is engaging, as I captured the video that you just listened to, and the video that you could see under the fake sun at 7th Street and Euclid in Upland, where the Upland police are being federally prosecuted simultaneously, which is prosecuting the city, it's prosecuting the government, it's prosecuting the population. The entity is engaging in stalking by psychopathic pacing. So this is Delta Airlines that's engaging in, immediately as that video ends, there's another plane that's already in line. The entity is flying into the city of Upland, right, flying right all the way to the 10 freeway to engage in. That's speaking to obsession. That's the entity that's engaging in that pattern of conduct with knowledge. They are, in other words, motivated to engage in more of their psychopathic behavior, which they are exposing about themselves, their criminal conduct that they are exposing, while they are aware of and literally pursuant to the fact that it's being documented to prosecute. Now, I want to be clear, the context is that the entity is going to be subject to what is a prosecution for this. This is an entity that's been gang stalking me, targeting me in furtherance of psychological torture. So this is what's an entity that's stalking Jason Fields, Tracy Banks, the U.S. military, the people of the state are engaging in gang stalking in the hopes that it would cause me to have a psychological breakdown so that they could get away with stealing from me and successfully defame me. They've already defamed me on paper as of record. So the entity literally, because it is corrupt and is not conducting any legitimate court hearings, those are gang stalkers that have, since I have been maintaining this investigation and have been subject to ongoing kidnappings such as what Hazelwood and Owens and the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department conducted on the latest of February 2026. The entity's been maintaining ongoing gang stalking while they've claimed to be holding any sort of investigation, court hearings, and evidence while I'm outside being gang stalked in this manner, where I'm capturing video and the entity seconds later doing the exact same thing. This is obvious engagement in targeting. All right. Why is the entity engaging in that? Because this is an entity that is not conducting a legitimate investigation. This is speaking to the entity that's permitted by the courts, that's gang stalking, to engage in that. The entity that is exposed, that I have single-handedly exposed, and while I've single-handedly exposed that federal government, they are not conducting any sort of rushed process, no intentional process, no means whereby they are seeking to stop engaging in terrorism as they are proven as such, but have continued it and even facilitated, enabled it, prolonged it, in the hopes that even in the course of my investigation that I'll just lose it, I'll just go crazy, in a way in which they could even manufacture, while I'm conducting an investigation, the entity just lying and stating that you're crazy, but they're not able to do that with this body of evidence and the way I'm conducting this investigation. But the entity that's engaging in the pattern of conduct is nonetheless continuously doing that under that delusional hope, where they are showing themselves to be psychotic in doing so, where they are exposing themselves to what are the repercussions for terrorism in doing so. And they are only doing so because the government itself is not under any circumstances investigating anything. The government is not under any circumstances conducting any legitimate court hearings. The government has not under any circumstances included me in any court hearings, while they are aware of and are watching and are suppressing my social media as I maintain this real-time investigation on the internet. The entity is not doing so in the interest of justice. The entity is doing so in the hopes that they're delusional. That's the whole purpose of gang stalking. While I'm showing you actually what's happening when any entity is gang stalking you, they're exposing the fact that they are a mentally ill entity. They're exposing the fact that they're engaged in massive, unprecedented, and intolerable corruption, which is necessitating martial law. That's all that they're doing. It will never make anybody else crazy. And what the entity is doing is, in fact, psychopathic. In fact, their sex rituals, Their reckless sexual practices, which is why the military is HIV infected, while they are psychotic and having a progressive mental breakdown, which is also proven through the psychopathic pacing in the planes, second by second, when you are flying over the freeway, deviating from an airport to stalk one person, which is a lot of time and energy and money. While they're doing that together as a population that has been proven to be engaging in that which was the plan to never ever be known. So now that their criminal conduct is known, they are engaging in this conduct, and it is relevant to the entity that is subject to federal prison. The entity is gang stalking me as though there will be no consequences for it. The entity is gang stalking me as though Tracy Banks is the only one that's going to prison for it, and that is not the case. It is not going to be just Tracy Banks and all the gang members that she conspired against me with to go into these gang stalking courts. It's going to be the court reporter in that courtroom that's gang stalking. It's going to be the judges. It's going to be the ones that claim to be medical professionals. It's going to be Jason Fields if he is not already in prison. If he is not already in prison, this is someone who's going to prison. And I want to be clear, this corrupt government that has been continuously targeting me is not the one that's going to speak, oh, Jason Fields and this entity has served enough time in prison. And because there's no. The entity is targeting, understand, the government is in real time gang stalking me right now. UPS is stalking in the commercial plane when I'm in Upland, California. Union Pacific is on the railroad tracks. The entity, the military, is in Upland, California, stalking by helicopter because the entity, the government, the courts, those claiming to be attorneys in a case that I'm not included in, even though it's about my money, my wealth, defaming my character, and the fact that I'm subject to terrorism that I single-handedly already proved. The entity's engaging in that because they are a part of the criminal activity. Okay? The entity's engaging. If the military were fearful that they were going to prison tomorrow, they would have already stopped. Understand the fact of gang stalking that I'm documenting is the evidence of the government that's not conducting anything. You're engaging in criminal activity. And I want to be clear, despite the fact that the government's engaging in this, like there's no consequences, there shall be consequences. They're going to federal prison. Tracy Banks is not sufficient. That's not enough because it's the government that is, and that's exactly what the government wants to do. They just want to focus on, oh, it's her relatives and it's her fake friends. And it's the people that went to court and lied on her character. And obviously it's the bad guys of the Ontario police that lied and said that she's crazy. Oh, clearly she's not crazy. Okay, so yes, they did that. And that's where the entity wants to stop. And that's not it. This is a system, and the system is still continuing against me, even though I already proved the case against the entire government. This is the government that remains corrupt. This is the government that is permitting the ongoing terrorism of an American citizen that proved the impossible. That is why the entity is still stalking me by helicopters, while they're still keeping me under surveillance, while they're still stalking in the bathrooms. While the demons at 1414 North Euclid Avenue are gang stalking, license 6 Mary Queen Apple 204. License 31214, that's a handicap. License 8 Edward Indiana Nancy 422. Gang stalking with the U.S. military that's stalking by planes over their house while the fake sun is remaining over me, and where you are not free to engage in surveillance by pacing outside. You're not free. It's not a matter of private speech. It's not a matter of private property. It's surveillance that the entity is doing as a society. And all the means whereby they're engaging in it, even when it's demonic. But I've shown the evidence of it. That's why the fake sun is there, the engineer light is there. That's why the entity's stalking my planes and helicopters. That's why they're flying into the adjacent city of Upland to do so. And they're doing so because the court system itself, the gang stalk, the corrupt judges, the entity, Jason Fields, they're still targeting. And they're doing so until the moment that they are in a position to give me what the entity does not have the authority to do, which is steal my money and property. But it is a matter of what is injustice, that the government continuously engaged in terrorism the entire time, and that's why they're going to prison. I'm letting you know right now, and this is relevant to what needs to be known worldwide, that the U.S. government continuously is engaging in terrorism. It is not merely the homosexuals that are using the Ontario International Airport and Paul Leon, these demons that are locally around me in relevant position, because the greater system is permitting it to continue. So I just want to be clear. The entity that is engaging in any sort of court hearings, you're talking about an entire courthouse. You're talking about the court system. You're talking about that branch, that department, the entirety, just like a demon from the Upland Police Department is representing that entire department, which is prosecuting that entire city, which is within a state that is engaging in surveillance. The entity that's engaging in this P.O.C. is doing so while you're engaged in psychopathic pacing with Delta airline planes, while you're doing so with the entities talking about helicopters, while I am at the 7-Eleven, and the entities doing so while they know that they've already lost. They're not keeping my money. They know that they're giving my money. They also know that there are penalties for it, but they're also being permitted to continuously do so. You need to understand the government has not ceased being corrupt. The system has not ceased targeting me. And you will not maintain some press conference talking about you were investigating and you solved this and you arrested these people, you raided them, and you were maintaining some sort of investigation in the background the whole time. And that's why I was being gang stalked. There is nothing to assess, and you are not assessing any American citizen while you're gang stalking me. This is the entity that's engaging in that same pattern of conduct. Oh, you were engaging in some sort of analysis. That's literally the P.O.C. You are not going to claim and literally dignify the malicious and defamatory claims of the people of the state. And that's why you permitted the government to be gang stalking me. And that's how you were engaging in an evaluation. Okay, so because someone can withstand supernaturally psychological torture, but if they could not withstand psychological torture, so suddenly they're mentally ill while you are stalking them in planes and helicopters in the deranged manners that these vagina monitors, are you kidding me? That's what the federal government is relying on. And the world needs to know the U.S. government is not conducting any investigation. The U.S. government is caught. And the world needs to know that they are still in the U.S. and California. These are terrorists that you hear in the background, including Amazon Prime going out of their way. This is what you need to know about these companies that you're giving your money to, because they're going to regret this on the opposite side of me getting my money and my property and me speaking literally in real time with regard to getting justice. And it's going to include more people than they anticipate going to prison. They're not controlling the results. I'm documenting a system that is permitting ongoing terrorism. And it's literally those that thought that they are controlling the narrative, like Jason Fields, who is not engaged in any investigation and never was. If he is sitting up in a prison cell somewhere, you're talking about what is someone that's given over information to the feds that are gang stalking me, the feds that are trying to control, conducting what is damage control, because I've exposed the entire system. And they're still permitting the government, it is the government itself. The same government that is not conducting any court hearing about the psychological status of somebody that you are gang stalking. If that's what you're sitting on, that's what you claim that you're doing, you're going to prison. It is terrorism, and justice. Alrighty, I want to continue recording my phone, the entity that is monitoring on my phone. I'm stating that justice requires federal prison for the government. That is the cause. The ongoing impunity that I document is the evidence against any and all federal officials that assert that they've been conducting an investigation. You have not been conducting an investigation. You are the reason why my life has remained under threat, why this emergency, which I represent American citizens, and you're talking about American citizens that would have long died, that would have been subject to your stealing from them and permitting the entity to keep my money and property, just holding out until that targeted individual, in fact, has a psychological breakdown. This is what you were holding out for. This is what is reasonably going to result based on what this entity, the federal government, has been conducting. There has been no reason to engage in not only withholding justice, but also excluding me at the same time. There is an unreasonable basis. There is an untenable basis for trying to claim that you have been working in my interest with regard to actual justice. You have been engaging in trying to control the results, which are inevitable, because I already proved that you as the government have been engaged in terrorism. That is, you as the government have been stalking and stealing from me, and you've done so in concert with demons, predators, psychos like Tracy Banks and Jason Fields, and you've sought to try to control the outcome. That's why they are still stalking me in planes and helicopters, because the order would have already been given to stop targeting me, especially while I'm putting it on the internet. The fact that you're suppressing my evidence, the fact that you have not included me in any court hearings, you know exactly where I'm at. You don't need to mail me anything. It's literally subjecting me to more harm while I have to go to the United States Postal Service, who was gang stalking me, while they are holding on to mail. This is you're playing a game. You're playing a game, and you are engaging in that which is entirely unjust. And despite your denial, while I am documenting you, I do not need to know your specific name. You will be identified based on what it is that I've been exposed to while the government has been asserting that you've been conducting any sort of investigation. Your investigation resulted in you sitting back and watching a government, your co-defendant, engage in terrorism of an American citizen, and you did nothing about it. The reason why you did nothing about it is because you were hoping and waiting, in other words, after I've already suffered the crime. You've permitted a population to continue attacking me as I'm suffering that ongoing harm. You've done so in the hopes that I would become some invalid, that I would become some sort of person that can no longer withstand psychologically the ongoing harm. You've done so while the demons you hear in the background, that's why you're going to prison, because they're gang stalking right now based on the truth that I'm speaking. That is not justice. That is not an investigation. This is something that Jason Fields remains a part of. The entities that are also demons. So they're engaged in what is a pattern of conduct regarding the spiritually attacking. That's prosecuted as psychological torture. While you're stalking me with impossible lights flying through the air, that's supernatural conduct. That's the entity that's engaged in this, and they are doing so with the consent of the federal government. And I'm prosecuting the entire airline industry for it. I'm prosecuting the entire federal government for it. It is terrorism while the government is persisting and continuing in that criminal conduct, which is not a mystery to you. You know exactly what they're doing at the Ontario International Airport. You know exactly who is getting on and off of those planes. You know, you're watching them fly in circles, go over me over and over and over again. There's no investigation. There's no investigation. You're engaging in that ongoing prolonging of harm because you're hoping that I'm not in a state to testify against you. That I'm not in a, and you are delusional. You're delusional. And you are in no situation, no circumstance, no position, no authority to diagnose anybody that you are gang stalking. That's all you have. That's all that you could claim. That you were sitting up and making sure that the targeted individual, the one that you are gang stalking, is of sound mind. You're going to prison. You are going to prison, and how are you going to prison? The evidence of the fact that I am subject to the pattern of conduct still to date, the fact that I have alerted the federal government, and the federal government sat back and permitted it to go on for years longer while I remained in that necessarily oppressive state for it to continue in furtherance of murder and kidnapping. You set up and watched Ontario police kidnap me. You set up and watched them harass me. You set up and watched them stalking me, and they do so with you. You are going to prison. Whatever branch of military, whatever position you hold, you're going to, those who are responsible claiming that you were investing, you're the one that's going to prison. This is P.O.C. It is currently 7:41 p.m. That's what's relevant. When you see the entity stalking in 13, 14, 15 planes like nothing's going to happen, it's because the federal government is gang stalking me. And the federal government is stamping off on approval for it. This is P.O.C. Alrighty, I want to be clear. I want to make sure that it is abundantly clear. The entity that is targeting, that sought and thought that Jason Fields is one of this entity, one within this entity that could be attractive to me, that I would talk to, or something literally retarded like that. These are vagina monitors who are, they're psychopaths that are under a whole fake sun, who are accustomed to engaging in deranged behavior, and that deranged behavior having an affect on other people. This is an entity that stalks as families. This is what you're looking at on the sidewalk right now. A bunch of demons, mom, dad, and the demon-possessed kids gang stalking with the government that's doing so on the sidewalk on Euclid Avenue under the fake sun. This is an entity that's doing so with the blessing of the federal government. What I want to state is that Jason Isaac Fields was never anybody that was going to be able to be in my life. This is what the government wants, like someone to have a relationship with you, because Tracy Banks is out. Eric Spencer is out, and so is Jason Fields. Jason Fields is even less, he is literally an annoying gnat. Okay, spiritually, he's a monitoring spirit. He's a psychopath. He's a homosexual. Are you kidding me? He makes me want to spit and laugh at the same time. In other words, the government has nobody, and you remain with no one. He is not coming. He is not permitted, and he is clearly identified as an agent. Okay, the entity is engaging in this P.O.C. and they're doing so while Jason Fields will not be. And this is I'm making sure that every aspect of this corrupt government in the United States is fully exposed. Tracy Banks was able to do this because this is what the U.S. government engages in. That's why she was able to, somebody with a high school degree, if that, because she's such a liar. You really don't know if she graduated from high school or not. But this is somebody with no more than a high school degree, and you're talking about what is a PhD in fellatio. Okay, somebody that is a master at what are sexual positions with the homosexuals of the military, who are engaged in targeting me with her and targeting my vagina with her. That's how she was able to do that. This is an entity that's targeting as a society. So you have what is Jason Fields, who is under no circumstances anything but an agent. And you are not engaging in what is coming anywhere near me by virtue of ever being a terrorist. You're not going to redeem yourself and then, oh, I don't want to be a terrorist anymore. No, that's never going to happen. And this is evidence because any sort of circumstance where Jason Fields is ever in my presence, it is a criminal, it's a federal offense. And I will be prosecuting for it. And this is a government that is delusional, engaging in what is the exercise of authority that they don't have. You don't have authority to dictate what justice is going to look like while you are still engaged in the criminal activity. You are on the wrong side of the law. I proved it. And I'm also going to prosecute you with regard to what justice requires based on what is the damages that an American citizen suffers reasonably when you're targeting them and you're still targeting them after they prosecuted you. And the way in which an American citizen would have access to when they can't get redress of grievances in your gang stalking courtrooms. You are going to prison. That's what the answer is. The solution is prison. And you're not doing 2 years in prison. Okay, the entity that's gang stalking these airline companies, they have proven that they are interested in murdering American citizens. They're interested in taking their money and then flying their planes with these suicidal demons, like the military, flying them into mountains and bodies of water and into buildings and into your homes and into the ground and into the Twin Towers and then blame it on foreign countries. I am not exaggerating. That's why they're gang stalking me right now. This is exactly what they were doing on 9/11. They were engaged in the criminal pattern of conduct. They were engaged in surveillance. This is the whole purpose of it. It was a massive sacrifice, September 11th, committed by the United States. And it was a massive act of witchcraft, spreading a spirit of fear. And also, while they do that, they are siphoning away, in other words, to put it in those terms, our constitutional rights, which we do not resist because we have a spirit of fear over it. So you let the government impede more, which is what they're always doing. COVID-19 was a product of spell work. Spreading a spirit of fear as well, impeding upon our constitutional rights more and more in a conspicuous manner because you don't even actually have constitutional privacy and rights because the entity is keeping us under surveillance in the first place. So while you don't even actually have it, they're impeding upon your illusion, your understanding, your concession to permitting the government to tell you to do one thing that they otherwise, under normal circumstances and under the federal and state constitutions, they don't have the authority to do. But I'm going to digress on that end. The entity that's engaged in targeting me, Jason Fields is a demon. All you demonic tarot card readers, you're listening to demons. So I'm going to be clear on that. First of all, you're listening to demons who are only giving you part of a story that they're sitting up ear hustling in the spirit. Okay? Satan is a liar and you're not getting 100% truth, which is also why the Bible says that you should not be engaged in that. But I want to make sure that it's abundantly clear while you're sitting up monitoring me. All right, and there's an ongoing investigation underway, and it's the entity that is engaged in targeting with the U.S. military because the government are a bunch of demons, and that is a part of the targeting system. While you're listening to Satan, so you need to make a decision with regard to what it is that you continue to do with your life, and it is clearly outside of the confines of Scripture, and this is why. And you're stating that you're ignorant about it, or you're stating that you're going to stand on the fact that you have good intentions as a white witch. You are engaging in that which is under all circumstances outside of the confines of Scripture. All right. And you are engaging in that which is demonic, whether you acknowledge it or not. It is. You're listening to demons. Jason is a monitoring spirit. Jason Fields is a demon that's been engaged in prolonged sexual activity with this old biddy Tracy Banks, who is likely not even my biological mother. She's a psychopath. And if she is my biological mother, that is literally a legitimate question. You're talking about she's not an actual mother. She's a predator. She wants to be me and she worships me. Okay, this is somebody that is very hostile. She is the reason why I'm being stalked by helicopters and by airplanes. She is the reason why people all over the internet know about money and wealth that belongs to me that I didn't even know about. She is the reason why people are stalking me in bathrooms, including her, obsessing over my vagina while she masturbates about what is her relative. She's a sex offender. And so are the demons that are gang stalking with her. This is a whole government system. And her sex partner, her long-term sex partner, regardless of how much of a conscience he feels like he's grown like a fungus, all right? This is a demon that will never, ever be around me. This has nothing to do with forgiveness. This has to do with common sense. You're not going to engage in terrorizing anybody, having sex with their family, defaming their character, trying to kill them, and then talking about anything about, you're not going to talk about anything against their right, against their wishes. And then as though this is a population that's gang stalking, and because you give evidence, you're some sort of, and this is what you claim. This is why you don't fraternize with the enemy, because they're all liars in the first place. But everything that I know is not contingent upon what Satan wants to concede. I said what was going to happen years ago, and that's exactly what's going to happen. And moreover, the federal government is far outside of the confines of the law. And you shall not dictate to an American citizen that you conspired to murder while you are still doing so, and tell them how you're going to limit justice against yourself. You're delusional. You're going to prison. Your federal prison is justice. It is absolutely mandated for gang stalking. That's what this is. Whatever you want to call it. State organized stalking. You want to speak to the conspiracy to commit murder? That's gang stalking. You want to speak to fraud, stealing my identity? You want to speak to the fraud committed by the courts, claiming that you're holding a court case about a targeted individual? That's fraud committed by the court system. That's gang stalking. The entity that's engaging in this P.O.C., you're going to prison for, whatever you want to call it, because someone and someones are going to take responsibility and claim that you were investigating X, Y, and Z. You have not been investigating anything, and you have been more than derelict, and that's by design. Jason Isaac Fields will never, ever be permitted. Okay? You are working for the devil when you are speaking to, this is the one that wants to be reconciled and thinks that giving information to the feds is going to accomplish that. It's not. Okay? What he needs to hope for is hope that he is not one of the many who Christ is coming for, meaning they're losing their lives. So he's somebody that's merely trying to hold on to his life. He's got other things to worry about, but it will never, it's never concerning me. He made a decision when he engaged in what is all manner of sexual activity with a parental figure of mine, let alone my chubby and fugly fake friends that have been monitoring me and envious of me and defaming me behind my back, when I have been very kind and generous and not treating you in the way in which you actually live your life. I'm treating you as though you're better than what you actually are, and you're not. Okay, but that's okay, because that happened for a reason, and you're going to prison for that. So I don't even have to worry about it. But the entity that's engaged in this, Jason Fields, is not coming anywhere near me. There will not be a reconciliation. Were he to show up ever in my life in the future, whenever he gets out of prison, that's called stalking. It's not going to happen. So I just want to make sure that that's clarified. This is an entity that's engaged in that pattern of conduct, and you're not making up for it by giving me money that you stole years ago, and you're trying to pay me back for it. There will be no reconciliation. You can't make up for conspiring the murder, especially while you're still gang stalking. This is why you don't engage in these sorts of evils in the first place. And there are some losses that you cannot recover from. Period. Jason Fields is going to die with the decisions that he made. And it will include never having to do anything with me, regardless of how my case is going to be concluded. It's not going to end with us giving a high five and being friends and walking off. That's never going to happen. That was supposed to be him and his aged old Betty, all right, that he was so happy with, okay? This is somebody that found out that I am actually impervious to witchcraft by a bunch of demons that sit around siphoning feces out of each other's anuses. Okay? And they call that engaging what is taking energy from each other. No, they're mentally ill. They're feces consumers. They sit around crouching in bathrooms, and they engage in stalking in the most deranged manners. Like in planes and helicopters. Spending money on the one that you're stalking. You're broke, and you're going to prison. And the ones that claim to be investigating, the federal government's not investigating itself. Just like I told you under the fake sun, the police aren't investigating anything. They're not headed to an emergency when they're sounding sirens. They're monitoring. This is a stalker society. The federal government is not investigating anything. When I submitted a request for an investigation on FBI.gov in 2018, they knew exactly who I was. They ignored it. And this is an entity that was, the FBI is the one that's engaged in gang stalking me. They're not investigating anything. The entity has been sitting back and watching and hoping that spell work, hoping that I do something to harm myself, hoping that I somehow trip up in this investigation and that all of you won't listen and won't give ear, hoping that that I just drop dead, that I just don't wake up, hoping that I get hurt. This is what they're all hoping. They don't have any hope, okay? But this is this is why a government is prolonging and has not interfered in that which you have every basis. You should have interfered a long time ago, because I did your job. It's already done. I already did your job. There's no investigation, and you certainly are not assessing anybody's mind state when you are gang stalking them. It is mutually exclusive. All right, stalking at Chevron, 8YTM 379. Oops. This is P.O.C. They're monitoring with German, who's going to be likely deported. SIRSCAT, stalking at Chevron, 7TGL169, stalking at Chevron, and Chevron is stalking at 506 North Euclid Avenue, while that establishment is a facilitating venue where the government is maintaining surveillance through the people of the state. All right, and that's how you're going to legally analyze while a demonic entity, a government, maintains a corrupt system where you are under surveillance, you're being monitored. Okay, so you're talking about stalking, which is a term of art. You're being monitored. So the light activity at Chevron is keeping you under surveillance on communication devices in violation of existing law. And its employees and customers and those traveling all around are aiding in that. And the government does that under the guise of the name of a corporation such as Chevron. And Chevron employees are fully aware of it and engaging in it. They're not coincidentally, ignorantly, or accidentally, nor does it matter under the law. You're engaging in it, you're being prosecuted for it. And Chevron is stalking because that's why the entity is hovering over the parking lot where I am documenting right now. That is captured in screenshots at 7:55 a.m. That's P.O.C. German's being deported, okay? German is likely not a natural-born American citizen, and anybody else that's engaged in the P.O.C. In the matter that Chevron is and Chevron's employees, they're being deported. You're talking about Balbier, likely a candidate for deportation, all right? You're talking about the entity that's engaged in that P.O.C., and this is speaking to prosecuting what is the military. That's UPS. That is hovering over the ARCO parking lot. This is what an entity was doing while I'm in Upland. So what have you been doing the entire time while I'm walking south on Euclid Avenue, coming from what airport? So the entity is engaging in what is blatant stalking, and they're doing so with the blessing of the government. This is how the system operates. This is what my investigation shows you. And justice shall be served. Those that thought that you were going to gang stalk me and then conduct what is damage control, because plot twist, you don't have authority to engage in sacrificing me. So now you thought you're going to do damage control, claiming that you're conducting an investigation while all you're doing is still gang stalking and prolonging. Oh, we're doing an investigation and we have to, we're holding court hearings and we're maintaining an assessment without, just making sure that, she's actually saying to get her money back that was stolen from her while she is still sleeping outside, still subject to that criminal pattern of conduct that we are responsible for, we being the government. And the entities engaging in this with the blessing, the blatant stalking. They know exactly who's flying the UPS plane. It is the government that's engaging in that. So I just want to be clear. You're going to prison. You are not conducting any, you are gang stalking. Gang stalking is terrorism. You're going to prison for terrorism, just like any other foreign terrorist. Jason Fields is not the only one that's going to be doing time. The entity that's engaging in this P.O.C. is doing so while you would feign ignorance about what's going on, and you're looking into. The federal government isn't investigating itself. The federal government knows what it's doing. The federal government is now being exposed as a hypocrite. It's embarrassing. I'm a civilian. I'm not even a part of the FBI or the military or law enforcement. And I'm telling you everything that they're doing. Everything. And I'm also critiquing and scrutinizing it because it's idiotic. And I'm letting you know even their secrets. Moreover, they're demons. They're demon possessed. They're psychotic. They're violent sex offenders. They're stalkers. And this is all government conduct. It's all state action. The entities engaged in this while they are monitoring, which is exceeding stalking. And business establishments are stalking while the government's engaging just what UPS just did. And the government knows who is flying the planes while I'm maintaining my investigation. Let me tell you what the P.O.C. stands for. The P.O.C. is nothing other than strong arming the federal government, forcing the federal government to admit and prosecute itself, in other words. And that's exactly what's happening. Because but for the P.O.C., the government never would have been even lying about an investigation, and you're going to prison for lying about investigating. Your incompetent investigation is a threat to my life, and because of that threat, meaning ongoing terrorism that you are there for facilitating, there's no evidence of you stopping it, slowing it down, no evidence of you ceasing for permitting it to, no longer permitting it to occur. You don't prolong terrorism. You don't gang stalk somebody. Let's see if she goes crazy today. Let's just keep testing and testing. Let's see if she loses her mind today. Let's see if the testimony in that court where she was already present, where she was not present, it was a violation of her due process rights. So it's not even relevant what the substance of those fraudulent claims would be in the first place. It's all criminal conduct. So you're gang stalking for what? What theory are you testing? It's blatant through and through criminal conduct by the government, and you're going to prison for terrorism. It's terrorism. The people of the state, these welfare collecting, vagina monitoring gargoyles are out here stalking for the federal government. Okay? They're doing so while the government is permitting it. And they're doing so with pursuant to what is being delusional. Because not only are the feds going to prison, so are brokies like 9HAP865. There is nobody that's going to save them. Nobody that's going to help them. All you're doing is incriminating. The fact that I'm documenting it is the evidence that's putting you away in prison. Because this is terrorism in the U.S. This is how that system operates. Nobody does anything to stop it. That's the P.O.C. Nobody does anything to stop it. That is the pattern of conduct. And while you're claiming, oh, no, we were doing something, we have been investigating and we were looking into this. And while the target individual maintains evidence, which I have, of the entity stalking me day in and day out by helicopter, following me from city to city in planes, molestation, license 8 Jerry David Charlie 897, that's an African-American male, at the Ovid Family Community Library, stalking me with light, just like they are under the fake sun in the morning. That's a demon engaging in the pattern of conduct. Doing so with the military that's stalking me by planes from Upland to Ontario. It is currently 8 p.m. right now while I'm at the Ovid Family Community Library. This is P.O.C. You are engaging in that pattern of conduct, like I was stating, while you are under any circumstances. These are a bunch of liars. So you are looking at the substance of what they lie about. Oh, if you're actually investigating, then we'll look into what an American citizen is actually subject to. Oh, you're prosecuting, really? Okay. So you're looking into the impact, the affect, the results of what a government is claiming that they're actually doing. They're not an investigator, they're stalking, and the evidence shows that. You were engaged in what is stalking that person and keeping them under surveillance while they are under no circumstances a criminal, never were, but you put them on the terrorist list so that you can engage in what is stalking them. You also aren't investigating anything when you're merely stalking them in helicopters and airplanes, and you're not conducting any interrogations, you're not asking them, there's no alleged criminal activity, you're merely engaged in what is stalking and harassing and terrorizing them. And you're going to prison for that. That's gang stalking. That is the government's pattern of conduct. All right, the entities engaging in this, and this is relevant to the government that has nobody that is ever permitted to be in my life. You're going to give me my money, and you're also going to prison while I maintain my own diligent and fact-based investigation about how the government was not investigating anything, not actually interested in stopping terrorism, engaging in what is prolonging it as long as possible until they were sure that Christ wasn't going to strike them dead. And that's the moment when they're giving me my money. And that is terrorism, and you're going to prison for it. That's why the entity is stalking with these commercial planes. They know exactly they know exactly who's flying the planes. They're aware they are a part of the entire operation. That's what I want to let you know. It is not a mystery. And they're engaging what is watching me document, suppressing my evidence, prolonging my ongoing terrorizing experience, and is literally engaging in even more of it because they're hostile to it. But they don't have a choice with regard to the ultimate result. But what is the objective here is that those that are in those positions in the courts claiming, oh, you were investigating the federal government while I was being gang stalked outside. Oh, you're the one that was claiming, or you're the department that claimed that you were investigating. They're going to prison. They're going to federal prison. This is the entity that's targeting as a system. So you've got the good old boys that are outside, their little homosexual partners that are still the mayor's still permitted, the city, the gang stalking, these little cowards in the library. Let me be clear. If they were aware that they were actually going to be in trouble immediately, the entity, you're talking about demons, and it would stop immediately. This is an entity that's delusional because they did not come through on a contract to kill me in time. That's not even going to happen. The entity is also a bunch of psychopaths who are unhinged and angry because they weren't able to engage in what is targeting me. This is something you're talking about, what is an ego issue here. Those are demons that are mentally ill. These are all the reasons why you're engaging in that which is exposing you to federal prison, and you're in denial about federal prison. You are going to federal prison. And you is spoken plurally. You are an entity and you're going to federal prison, including those that are in a position claiming that you are the one that is investigating the military personnel that are gang stalking me. You are the one that's investigating the police departments that I documented that are gang stalking me. You are the one that's investigating. You're in a position to speak to and decide and investigate with regard to martial law of the city, of the state. You are the one that's being federally prosecuted. You are the one that's responsible for terrorism, as you are a terrorist while an American citizen remains subject to it. That's how it's executed. No, we're going to hold back. Just let them keep stalking. Let them keep torturing. Let them keep monitoring. Let that continue. And that's because the entity is engaging in what is the ongoing P.O.C. While you do not do your job, you are engaging in the pattern of conduct. I hope that that's abundantly clear. It's not about whether you're in denial about it. It's about what's actually going to happen. And you are going to prison, and you're going to compensate me. You are going to compensate on a level that has never before been contemplated under the Constitution. And that's because you typically murder your victims. You murder them. I'm not going anywhere. You are going to prison, though. There is no federal investigator that's maintaining a case while I'm sitting outside for years being gang stalked. While the demons of the Ontario police are still confidently driving around stalking me, like they don't have any, oh, you're not investigating anything. No, you're not. You're not investigating anything. Not genuinely, not authentically, not seriously. So this is an entity that is speaking to what they plan to do at a certain time, at a certain date, sitting back and watching the entire time. And then they make an intentional act and come forward with regard to what you cannot persuade me. You can't pay me. I'm not signing any NDA. I'm not agreeing to anything. You're going to prison. I'm prosecuting you. I'm enforcing my rights. This is the evidence that's going to supersede your fraudulent, dishonest misrepresentation of what your actual role is. And this is proving it while I'm being gang stalked. And not only that, you're going to compensate me for it. This is the P.O.C. And the entity, the population itself, is also going to compensate, including the city itself. So I just want to be clear. The government is compensating, and the people, that population, they are coming out of their pockets, even welfare recipients, because you're defunding anyway. The government's not giving any aid to the people of the state. That money is money that you owe me. You are going to compensate when you are engaging in terrorism. Terrorism that has been proven a long time ago, and you're still targeting, and you're targeting confidently in the face of being proven to be guilty, where you were so elite that you were never even supposed to be seen. This is how desperate you are and delusional you are, because you, who are listening to me, who are in positions over these demons, you are going to prison. This is P.O.C. It is currently 8:06 p.m. and Jason Isaac Fields is a demon. Jason Isaac Fields is an enemy. Jason Isaac Fields is a whore for Satan. Okay? The reason why his anus is in the condition that is in, is because he is a whore for the devil. And he turns over for whoever Satan tells him to turn over for. He's not coming anywhere near me. And you are not a friend because you are engaging in any information to the feds you never should have been engaging in the first place. And that goes universally. I'm getting justice, and whether you cooperate with that or not, that's not affecting the fact that you are blocked. You're going to do what you're obligated to do under the law and under any circumstances. And I'm getting justice with or without your cooperation. You are going to prison if you violated the laws that dictate prison is what justice requires, period. Jason Isaac Fields is not coming anywhere near me, and he remains one that is on the outside. And that is the case even while demons are lying via tarot card readings, okay? Where you are reciting messages by the demons of the U.S. government that you're listening to, because they are in the spirit monitoring, and you're listening to them, and you're giving tarot card readings based on lying spirits, demons, where they're seeking to influence a targeted individual, those that don't know any better. Those that are giving ear to the devil, those who are influenced by that, where you're actually engaged in targeting with the government. This is a satanic system, and the government's riddled with a bunch of demons. that are engaged in divination. They're engaged in witchcraft. This is what Tracy Banks is engaged in. She's a witch that engages in what is hypersexual activity, which is relevant to her mental illness that has not been diagnosed yet. But her STDs, her reckless sexual behavior, is a manifestation of severe mental instability. And it is shared by the demons that are stalking me in planes and helicopters. The way in which the entity is doing so with impunity, so obviously it's evidence of mental illness. And it is also evidence of guilt of the government. You have these demons that are stalking me 24 hours. Why are they stalking me so heavily? Why are you outside stalking me in the middle of the night as though you have something to look forward to? As though you are acting towards some objective that you're still in denial about not achieving? That's because the government, the federal government itself, is engaged in targeting. And you're being prosecuted for it. The message is not out that you're investigating. The message is clearly not out that the government should stop talking. That's your co-defendant. That is the same entity. And the reason why they're not acting pursuant to orders of you stopping, that the reason how it's known that you're not investigating yourself is the fact that I'm still being gang stalked. And that is not a matter of debate. It is a matter of what is the P.O.C, the evidence itself. Well, you're flying in circles over me by helicopter. That's you. That's claiming that you were investigating. You weren't investigating anything. You were being investigated, and you're going to prison for terrorism. You're not going to prison for merely a dereliction of duty and an insufficient, incompetent investigation, and we're going to find the department and we're going to have no, you're going to prison. It's in furtherance of murder. It's the unabated program of psychological torture, which you commit in order to win millions, billions of dollars from an American citizen. You're not getting my money, and you're not going to stay outside of the walls of a prison. You're not. And remember, the facts in this case, you committed kidnapping on more than one occasion. You are doing time for every day that I was confined. You're getting that multiplied. Don't forget about that. That you are not aware and you're not cognizant of that because you're a bunch of diaper-wearing feces consumers. All right. But the reality is you're going to prison, period, because you've already kidnapped on several occasions. While I'm still subject to it, while I get up in the entity, these idiots are stalking and plane after plane after plane. You, sir and madam, are going to prison, whoever you are, because I don't have to know your name. And it is unreasonable to expect any American citizen to be able to identify. Of course, you don't know that. You're being targeted by the government. That are a bunch of psychopaths who are demons. I don't need to know who you are, your specific identity right now on this side of a court ruling. Because who you are is going to be revealed by who was claiming that they were doing what at what time when I was documenting this over here. And you were claiming, that that's what you were conducting over there. Well, if that were the case, then I wouldn't have been subject to such heavy criminal conduct with impunity, blatant disregard. There's no secrets here. They know that they're being quote unquote investigated. There are no secrets here. This is corruption. And the entire system is exposed. That's why you're suppressing at the same time on the internet my evidence. You're going to prison. This is your own backfire. I just want to be clear. This is your own fate. You're not tricking anybody out of your time in prison. You are going to prison. You're not delaying. You're not paying your way out of it. You are going to prison. I'm going to get my money for what I suffered regardless. You are going to prison under all circumstances. You cannot pay me out of justice. You cannot intimidate me out of justice. It's not going to happen. You're going to prison. You're going to prison because as of June 23rd, 2026, Natasha is still gang stalking me. Natasha that's at the Ovid Family Community Library, and she's not in prison yet. And she's gang stalking me with you while you are permitting it and not conducting a competent investigation. Where the military that know very well what's being investigated, they know, they get wind of you're a corrupt entity. And the reason why they're so confidently stalking in this obvious manner, is because you're still confident that you're getting away with something, that you're going to continue something, that Tracy Banks got some spell in some sort of sex ritual, and that's going to change everything. You're psychotic. You're going to prison. That's how you're going to prosecute a system. The system that's not doing what it's supposed to do. Those that are in those positions that are not doing what they're supposed to do, you're going to prison. And it's very clear. I don't need to know your name. When it's not working in the way that it's supposed to, meaning the government's not going to stop, you're going to stop when you're going to prison. You are going to prison. You will be in court. You will answer for it. This is a record, and the record's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. You are going to prison, and specifically your government name will be known. You are going to prison, and that includes those that are targeting, the idiots that are providing evidence against you, the ones that are sitting in court. You are never conducting any sort of legitimate court hearings when you are gang stalking the targeted individual at the same time. Unless you have not heard, you are the one that is gang stalking. You have an onus, a responsibility to prove that you are not a part of that targeting system, and the only way to do that is to immediately interfere. You know what the P.O.C. is. I told you what it is, and that was evident. That was evidence to you, demons, that was a warning. And if you do not do what you're supposed to do, in other words, if you don't stop, there are going to be consequences, even in the physical. And it's going to be prison. This is P.O.C. It is currently 8:13 p.m. I want to make sure that that's clear, because this is an entity that's not dictating what justice is going to look like when you were gang stalking me, and I'm supposed to be, according to you, according to the spell work, according to the practitioners and the hundreds of thousands of dollars that you spent, the millions that you spent on stalking me, and those that have paid you to take me out and it didn't work, and you did not come through on that contract, and you're still engaging in that P.O.C. You're doing so while I've exposed it to the whole world. You're going to prison for that impunity. You're going to federal prison for that mental instability that you are clearly exposing about yourself, the liability that every business in California is thereby exposed for. You're going to prison for it. And you're going to prison broke. This is the P.O.C. Jason Fields will never be coming anywhere near me. You're not gang stalking me and then we're being buddies. You're not going to testify and give information about your sex partner, Tracy Banks, and think that I'm going to be satisfied. You're not going to wait 2.5 years and then show up somewhere where you have not been invited. You're going to be prosecuted for that. It's not going to happen. And you all need to know that, because this is a matter of my evidence as well. Jason Fields remains an enemy. He is a terrorist, and he is not welcome. What he does with regard to trying to stay out of prison, trying to lessen whatever repercussions that he has to face, that's between him and his maker. But as far as the prosecution, I'm maintaining a case, and you come anywhere near me, you're going to prison just like your sex partner. Because Tracy Banks is getting locked up. Period. This is the P.O.C. I'm at the Ovid Family Community Library, where a city is stalking me. And the city is providing evidence that they are stalking as an entire state while I go from Upland to Ontario, California, where the entity kept a fake sun. So what else is making it sunny throughout the rest of the state of California? How is it sunny? The state of California, including Gavin Newsom, is engaged in criminal surveillance. And that system is the one that is permitting a bunch of homosexuals to fly commercial planes and stalk me in helicopters and follow me around as though you've got the way in which I'm documenting, oh, there's no consequences. The consequences are going to be that much more intensified by virtue of that evidence. That's how you're countering terrorism in the U.S. This is P.O.C. All right. It is currently 8:15 p.m. at the Ovid Family Community Library.